Okay, so let's move over to the back. And I had started and wanted to get this. Let me X that out. Okay, so we're trying to find out which equation is going to match this model. And so I had to go through, and I know that I'm dealing with two holes. I'm going to have two parts of something. So I know that I will have that. Two parts of something. We had this explanation when we were talking about two rows of that we were going to plant carrots or plant some type of vegetable. And so we needed to represent two whole bars to represent what we were going to do. So I need to find an equation that's going to end up multiplying that by 2. Well, this will work and this will work, but the 4 won't because I don't have 4 parts, 4 holes of anything, and I don't have 8 of anything, so I'm going to put an X there. Then I'm going to look here. Well, this is saying that it's 1/8 times 2 parts. Well, I pulled out, I had to go look for my fraction strip. So I pulled out my fraction strip, and I have the 1/4, right? So I needed to see what fraction, and the 1/4 fraction would fit across, because I had to have 4 parts that fit across, or a total of 8. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I needed to see which equation, or which fraction strip, if I had 4, if I needed 8 to go across, which ones would fit evenly? So I tried, let's see, could I put my 6 there? And if I had my 1/6, and I had, I'm trying to look for all of my little fractions here so that you can better understand this. Which ones am I going to have? I'm looking for my other 6. I have 5th. I'll probably use that then, just so that I can find it. Here's another 6. So if I have a 6, and there's 1/4 there, and there's 1/4 here, that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, and I needed 4 more to make my 8. Remember, we did this yesterday on the board with the magnetic fractions. So will 6 work? No, not at all, because it's 1/6 and 1/6, that didn't even go there. So I'm going to take my 6 out, and I'm going to see, I can split my 4th into 2 parts, which will give me 8. So if I split those into 2, it makes it, there's 2 8s is equal to 1/4. So am I going to get 2, am I going to get 8? It's 2 8s will be across, 2 8s, 2 8s. So is my 4th going to be the one that's equivalent? Yes, it will. And so, as you can see, it will fit. And if I continue the pattern, I was trying to find one more 8, but I can't find it. Oh, here we go. And so now if I multiply that by 2, I know that I'm going to have 8 equal parts because I'm looking at 8s. So here's my 7/8, 8 equal parts that needed to go, but I needed to find the equivalent fractions. So that would give me 8 equal parts. And so ignoring the 4th, I know that this size here will give me 8 equal parts that would fit into these holes. And so now I have to look. So I knew that this was going to be equivalent to the 8. All right, so now that we have that, I highlighted the yellow. I'm going to turn on my microphone. It's like, that's silly. Okay, so I highlighted the yellow, so I needed to see, is it just how many of the 8s did I end up, am I circling here? Well, let me look here. Okay, so I have, let me erase this part because this is where I was figuring that it was going to be my 8s that fit into there. So I can split those in half, and I know those are 8s. So I'm going to remove this. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I circled, I circled a total of 7, and they each represented the 8. So here, this will equal to 14. 7 times 2 is 14 over 8 will equal, now look at what my answer is. Where's another, I don't want to use that marker. What did I do with my pencil? Okay, so now let's look at my design. I'm going to shade in here, this section here. So this is one hole. So I have one hole. And what's my fraction part over here? I'm going to do that in a different color. I'll do it in blue. This is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, right? I have 3/4. Is that what I end up getting as my answer? How many groups of 8 can go into 14? 1. What's left over? Because 8 times 8. So it'd be 6/8. Both even numbers, right? So here I have 1 and 6/8 equals 1. I take half of 6 is 3, half of 8 is 4. And so my answer is 1 3/4. So the equation that matches this is 7/8 times 2. So pause it, regroup. If you need to go back to check it, that's fine. Let's look at number 10. Which multiplication problem does this model represent? Okay, so we're going to look at the same thing. Well, here I'm going to see how many groups. I have 3 groups. 1, 2, there's 3 groups. 3, 3. I don't need this one because that's 5. And there's 3 groups there. So I can already isolate 1. That's gone. All right, now I'm going to count. I have this one shaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, out of how many? So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 5 out of 12 that are shaded times 3. So the answer is A. So I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What did I do there? Oh, I'm sorry. Everything is a 5. I got carried away. I was thinking on the other page. Okay, I'm in a rush. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here I'm showing that I have 5 out of 12, and 5 out of 12, and 5 out of 12. So I can add them up, repeated addition, or multiply by 3. Okay, let's look at number 11. Marianne is completing a 4-mile route for charity. Every 1/10 of a mile is marked along the route. For each mile, she runs 7/10 of a mile and walks 3/10. So if I added 7/10 plus 3/10, that's my full mile, right? So she's running 7/10 of a mile. How many miles does Marianne run? Okay, so we have, there's going to be a 4-mile run. Okay. And she runs 7/10 of a mile. And we only want to know how many miles does Marianne run. That's all we want to know. We don't want to know how much she walks, just how much does she run. So I have 7/10 times 4, and that's going to equal to 7/10 times 4 over 1 equals 28 over 10. 2 groups of 10 leaves me with 8/10. So now I can take my 8 to even numbers. So I'll have 2. Half of 8 is 4. Half of 10 is 5. So she runs 2 4/5 of a mile. Not how much she walks, how much she runs. And this is what she's running. Okay. All right, let's look at number 12. Number 12 is Terrence runs 5 miles each week. His brother runs 5/6 the distance Terrence runs in 1 week. How far does Terrence's brothers run in 1 week? Okay, so he runs 5/6 the distance of Terrence, and it's for 5 miles. Okay, so we're going to look at this one. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 1 is 6. If we wanted to draw a model, we could do that as well, because I'm going to have 5, each mile is 5, and then shade in what I need. 6 goes into 25, how many times? 4 times, with 1 left over, because 6 times 4 is 24, and he runs 4 1/6 miles. Drawing out as a picture, again, I would show it as 5 miles, draw 5 boxes, draw 6 groups in each box, shade in 5, and then count them, and then see how much you have. Okay, number 13, multi-step. Colton's recipe makes 2 dozen brownies. His recipe calls for 7/8 cups of vegetable oil. How much oil will Colton need to make 6 dozen of brownies? All right, so the first things first, he's going to make 2 dozen brownies. His recipe calls for 7/8 cup of vegetable oil. So what are we going to do here? All right, so let's take a look. His recipe makes 2 dozen brownies. His recipe calls for 7/8 cup of vegetable oil. How much oil will Colton need to make 6 dozen brownies? Okay. Oh, wait, somebody's knocking. I'm going to put you on a pause. I'll be back.